Well, that's it. What is probably the final debate of the presidential cycle in 2024 has just occurred between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. And I have to say, J.D. Vance is really slick at speaking. He's clearly a master debater. So really impressive. And that's not to try to start this out biased. I'm just saying, I think anybody, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you watch this, you're like, Tim's kind of like, your grandpa who's going to come over and kind of like grab you on the shoulder and be like, come here, Jimmy. How can I help you out? And J.D. Vance is like, my son, Timmy, we're going to help you out in the following 3 ways. First, it's like, it is such an incredibly different environment between these two. But I mean, look, let's be real. Do we really think the outcome of this election is going to change substantially as a result of what we saw here tonight? No. But we did get a little bit of some policy hints and some fact checking, so it's worth touching on these. So let's run through those. Also, quickly worth noting that if you look at Bitcoin actually started right about here under 61,000, and it ran right up to my next resistance line through the debate, which in my opinion suggests Bitcoin pricing in a bit more of a Vance win on this debate. Though I did notice that the betting markets didn't actually move that much at all from this. So again, while we'll get some commentary from both sides, I don't really think we saw much of a move over here. I do think maybe we saw 1 penny up on Trump and 1 penny down on Harris in the predicted odds. Maybe, although this barely fluctuates on a regular basis. That's predicted.org. And if you look at Polymarket, which is the crypto-backed betting market, you didn't really have much of a movement here, and you've got substantially closer of a race between the two. So, with that said, let's hit some of the facts. The debate begins on Iran. And the question is, would you support a preemptive strike on Iran? And Walz talks about how important it is to expand our relationship with Israeli proxies. And the first slam he takes is like his second sentence, which is when he calls Donald Trump an 80-year-old, and we don't need an 80-year-old making decisions. Now, this I thought was interesting because it's almost kind of like they're trying to weaponize. Walz, by the way, is 60. They're trying to weaponize the Biden age problem and turn it now against Trump. Anyway, Walz does talk about prior staff from Donald Trump saying Trump should be nowhere near the White House. Donald Trump actually responds to that and says, yes, some people do say that, but that's because they were fired. For example, look at Mark Esper. He was Secretary of Defense for a bit over a year, and then he got fired. Not so much of a surprise. We always know that Trump has a little bit of contention with some folks that he ends up appointing or hiring. And this is something he actually brought up in the last debate where he says, yeah, well, if somebody does a bad job, I fire them. And he actually tried to draw that parallel or contrast, rather, to Harris, where he says, I don't keep bad workers, I fire them. All right. So then Vance talks about the American dream, bringing the American dream back. Vance talks about Iran taking money from the United States under the Biden administration. It's worth noting that, yes, some Iranian assets, like $16 billion of which were unfrozen for some period of time. These were Iranian assets, so it's not like money that went from us to them. It was their own money. And some of that, about $6 billion of that, was later refrozen because of Iran's volatility. But yeah, it's possible some of those frozen assets that were unfrozen were used to, quite frankly, produce or manufacture some of the missiles that we're seeing now or some of the drones that are being sold to Russia in the war against Ukraine. Vance finally hits what I think is one of the most important topics of this debate. And quite frankly, it's something that Donald Trump should be talking about a lot more, and Vance finally brought the point home. It is that this Friday at 11:59 p.m., the prices go up on the courses on building your wealth. So if you're looking for YouTube insights, productivity insights, real estate sales, real estate investing, property management, stocks, trades, you want to see what trades or trends I'm seeing, make sure you're part of the Stocks and Psychology of Money group or any of the courses before 11:59 p.m. this weekend. It's our only sponsor for this video. Go to meetkevin.com to learn more about those. If you have questions, email us at staff@meetkevin.com or email us for bundle coupons. With that out of the way, actually, Donald Trump finally had a big highlighter put through his stability. Now, I put that in quotes because that is exactly what Vance argued. He argued that Donald Trump brought stability, that Kamala Harris has been vice president for 3.5 years, and we've had a lot of instability from Afghanistan to Ukraine to Israel to the Red Sea. And really, you didn't have any new wars under Donald Trump. This is one of the best arguments you could possibly start with for the Trump administration. And I got to give JD Vance credit for this because that's exactly what you should start with. It is one of Donald Trump's strongest points that he could possibly make. And Donald Trump doesn't actually make that point as much as he should. Now, JD Vance does say, he sort of rhetorically asked, well, when did Iran and Hamas attack? Oh, during the Harris administration. So really trying to dig in there. For some reason, we don't spend more time on geopolitics or like the port strikes, which don't even come up. Instead, we go into climate change, which then there's discussion, this sort of like argument over like who's polluting more. Look, let's just put that issue to rest. Everybody, all major countries with major populations are polluting. But I think the easiest way to just put this to rest is just look at the chart and look at your own, see it with your own eyes. The United States is polluting less, as in it's sort of shrinking in its level of emissions growth. Its emissions growth is plummeting as its emissions remain relatively stable and begin to decline in growth. The same is true for the EU, but it's really China and India that are starting to see this sort of explosive emissions growth. And so Vance strikes this argument of, hey, we should be in a position where we're punishing China and India by not supporting those polluters. Why don't we make more in America? Later, there's actually an argument that comes up that, Vance suggests that Walz wants us to buy more Chinese solar panels. This is actually incorrect. The Inflation Reduction Act really only provides subsidies for products manufactured in the United States. But JD Vance realizes this and then comes back and says, well, I mean, some components are made in China. Okay, all right. He tried to pick that up. Walz talks about producing more clean natural gas and oil and clean energy than ever before. Vance sort of questions this whole clean energy thing. He's trying to, play the anti-Green New Deal aspects here. Not so much substance here. On the border, they're both asked, would you deport the parents of children born here? Of course, both of them ignore that. Vance talks about how Kamala Harris wanted to undo Trump policies and then therefore open the floodgates to fentanyl and illegal migrants. Then there's this sort of like debate that comes up about temporary protected status in America. It's worth noting when they talk about the Haitian migrants that are in Springfield, Ohio, which apparently there are like 15,000 of them there, and the area only has a population of like 60,000. So it's like 1 in, 4 people are Haitian migrants apparently now. Whatever. The point of this is those Haitian migrants were just granted an extension of the temporary protective status by the Biden administration. I'm adding this in, right? This didn't come up in the debate. They were granted an extension through 2026. So yes, you do have asylum seekers from whether it's Haiti or Venezuela, 400,000 Venezuelans, many thousands of Haitians or whatever that are getting asylum in America, and they are eligible to stay here on a basis where you continue to get this renewed asylum on this idea that, hey, we'll just let you be here for now and we'll figure it out later. In terms of like dealing with it, Vance has an interesting solution. He suggests, look, for everybody who's here illegally, let's start with the people who committed crimes after coming here. Like beyond being here illegally, who are the criminals? Let's get rid of those people first. It's an interesting idea, and I think most people would actually agree with that suggestion. Vance is a big fan of implementing deportations and building the wall. Walz argues, look, we tried to pass a bill to fix this, and Donald Trump tanked it. Okay, yes, Donald Trump did tank the border bill. Republicans say, well, there were problems in that anyway. But then other Republicans are like, yeah, no. Donald Trump definitely did kill the border bill to, give himself political leverage. So even Republicans admit that. However, what is interesting, and nobody brings this up, but the the Biden administration actually implemented one of Donald Trump's executive orders to limit the number of asylum seekers that are eligible to come into the United States. And you won't, like, once that limit is reached, you don't reopen that until border crossings fall below like 1,500 as sort of like an on and off toggle. And that was a Trump executive order that he went to court for and lost in some cases. And the Biden administration tweaked it and is now using basically a Trump executive order to do the same thing Trump was doing. Now, one of the most egregious claims was when Walz suggests that we've had fewer border crossings now than when Trump was president. That is just laughably false. I mean, you could really look at any statistics here on when Donald Trump left office, which is like right here, and you could see expulsions, inadmissibles, apprehensions, everything is through the roof right now. Expulsions actually dropped off when Title 42 ended. So now you're just left with inadmissibles and apprehensions. Now, some people argue that the Border Patrol is now counting what's considered an encounter differently, and that's why the numbers look more miserable under Biden. But honestly, I'm kind of at the place where I'm just sort of like, I don't really know what to believe anymore. I just know there's a giant border problem. But then you get this sort of other problem where Walz tries to argue that Trump only built 2% of the wall. No, that's not correct. Donald Trump built 452 miles of wall, which is about 23% of the total distance of the U.S.-Mexico border, which is about 1,954 miles long. However, only 699 miles of that are actually land. The rest is the Rio Grande. So that means 452 miles represent roughly 65% of the land distance between the U.S.-Mexico border, or on the U.S.-Mexico border, had new Trump wall built on it. Now, yes, there were some existing fences and walls in a lot of those areas, and so yes, only 80 miles of new barriers were built. But even if you said 80 miles divided by that 2,000-mile border, which includes like 1,300 miles of river, that's 4%. Not 2%, Mr. Walz. I see where he's going with it, though. I think it's highly misleading, though, so I didn't love that. Though Vance also makes this misleading claim about the Department of Homeland Security losing 300,000 children. Yes, the Department of Homeland Security did release a document saying, hey, like, we've kind of lost track of, like, 300,000 children, people under 18. Like, are they coming to a court appointment? Where are they? Where are they living right now? Where are they staying? What's their residence? And yes, it is possible that these people could end up getting trafficked, which is very bad and terrible and sad. However, the reality is most of these people are probably 15, 16, 17-year-old dudes. They're not like 5-year-old kids that are like, where's my mommy? There's some estimates that put that somewhere around 84%. So like most 16-year-olds, you can get by, okay? You can survive. A 6-year-old can't. So, you know, I like to draw that because I'm not saying it's good that the DHS lost track of. I'm just saying it's not as bad as it sounds when you say they lost 300,000 children. Like, it sounds like you just lost a school of preschoolers, you know, it is just political extremism, but that's okay. Both sides do it. They all do it. And that's why we're here to try to clear it up. I mean, I'm not going to fact check this, but I thought it was funny when Vance is like, I've been to the border more than our borders are Kamala Harris. All right. You know, Walz kind of keeps circling back to, oh, we need a bill to handle this. We need a bill to handle this. Okay. And then that's Walz who says that. And then Vance is like, the pain will stop when Trump is back. Talking about food prices and inflation, blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind, you probably would have honestly had inflation under Trump as well. Trump probably wouldn't have passed the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the $1,400 stimulus check package, though. So all three of those things did probably add fuel to the inflationary fire, because even though it's called the Inflation Reduction Act, most of that reduction won't actually be seen for years afterwards. Okay. Then, tax cuts. Yeah, let's hit that. I want to shout out, by the way, Mastermind this weekend, meetkevin.com/mastermind. We might be full for this one. And if you want to shadow me to look at some of the real estate we're buying, we do have some shadowing spots left for next Tuesday. If you're interested in that, staff at meetkevin.com. Okay, so 29 million Americans, it's worth noting, had their tax returns simplified by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, thanks to the expanded standard deduction. The corporate tax rate was cut to 21%, so most people who own stocks probably got a benefit out of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So a lot of people like to say, oh, Donald Trump only cuts taxes for billionaires, and it's true. Those in like the highest income paying brackets probably save the most, but that's because they also pay the most in taxes. So I don't love this idea of like Walz going, I'm a union guy. You know, if you want to give billionaires tax breaks, Trump is your guy. It gives a lot of people tax breaks. You know, yes, the bottom like 40%, you know, maybe have only benefited up to maybe $500, but it does imply that that the upper threshold, that is like maybe the upper half of America, did receive substantial tax benefits in addition to the corporate tax rate being cut. So we'll see. But anyway, Walz really gets screwed when he tries to like explain the discrepancy in his military record. He goes into talking about how he's a middle class guy, and he gets really awkward here. He's really bad. Like, I'm surprised he wasn't like trained or prepped on this. It should have been really obvious that this was coming. It just didn't look good. Again, I don't think it really matters, but it definitely didn't look good. You know, then Vance is asked about Trump and his criticisms in the past. Of course, he says, well, the media lied to me. We actually had that on our bingo card. If you want to see how the bingo card ended up really quick, it's right here. We got bingo on someone's mic is muted. Abortion comes up. They show up. Moderators fact check JD Moore. And hurricane relief comes up. Crypto does not come up was correct. We did get a JD rushing Walz at the end for a handshake. JD gets the jump and rushes Walz. Yeah, exactly. Walz brings up Project 2025. Walz reminds everyone he's a gun owner. JD says, I grew up either in the sticks or middle class or basically working class, so we took that one. Walz tries to hammer JD on Trump criticisms. And then, of course, yeah, I think that about covers that. Okay. That was bingo. So then we get into abortion. Walz talks about just wait for the Project 2025 registry. Okay, we've talked about this a million times. Donald Trump has distanced himself from 2025, Project 2025, but Democrats regularly bring it up. Okay, fine. Vance says, no, we're not going to create a registry. We want to make it easier for people to afford to have kids, a home, and access to fertility treatment. And then sort of like a debate ensues about whether or not certain individuals were denied care. You know, should Catholic hospitals be forced to provide abortion? Like, there are these like really nuanced things that honestly I don't think is worth spending terribly much time on. I just like to personally clarify that, you know, I'm trying to be as balanced as possible here, and I think I've done some fact checking more on one side than the other. I'm going to try to balance it just by, I got to give a little more of a fact check here to Trump. We brought this up earlier as well. As usual, Donald Trump tweets that, you know, basically, I can't believe there are radical Democrats that are doing abortions in the 7th, 8th, or 9th month. No, that is not happening. Those things only happen if the child is going to die and therefore potentially kill the mother or create some kind of medical emergency. That doesn't happen. And then this idea about executing a baby after birth. This is, again, look, some children are born and they are viable for a few hours, but they have chromosomal, my goodness, abnormalities, and they're going to die. They will not survive. They will die. So yes, there have been quotes about this governor talking about we try to make the child comfortable. It's been way taken out of context. It totally has a reference to do with children that are going to die anyway. It is the most terrible thing ever. I have 7 children, and I hate this kind of stuff. I hate even talking about it because it's just terrible to think about. Nobody wants to see a child die. But I just want to clarify this because, like, honestly, I personally, sometimes when I listen to Trump speak or when he writes this kind of stuff, I just wish we could get like a little bit more in the middle, like a little bit more rational with some of these things, because this stuff just pisses me off because it's loony. You know, California doesn't, for example, California is one of your most liberal states when it comes to abortion. You can't have an abortion after fetal viability. You know, I've been for a very long time in the NICU with babies. I love all of the babies. Many babies. Give me all the babies. I'm a big fan of babies. I want more children, actually. But anyway, this is a topic for a different thing. It's just frustrating. But anyway, on guns, Walls brings up this idea of, hey, kids should just be kids. Why do we have this problem? It comes down to the guns. Vance is like, no, there are mental health problems. We have higher rates of depression and anxiety than anywhere else in the world. We have a mental health crisis. Walls says, well, just because you have a mental health crisis doesn't mean that, mental health people are violent. It's the problem is they have access to guns. This turns into sort of a gun debate. Look, I do think mental health is a problem. I mean, so what I did on this is I just looked up the share of population with mental health disorders. And I mean, I have to give it to the mental health argument. United States is pretty damn red. Okay, we're as red as freaking Greenland and Australia, Spain, Portugal, and Iran. Dude, we're as red as Iran when it comes to mental health disorders. I think there's a guy over there named Khamenei, some Ayatollah or whatever. He might qualify as one of the people on that list. Anyway, I thought this was kind of interesting. I don't know, mental health argument. Like, who else we got over there? Syria? Where's Israel? Israel. The Israelis have like a quarter fewer mental health problems per 100 people than we do. The Israelis, with the Iron Dome and bombs going off in their backyards, they have fewer mental health problems per capita than America. Let that sink in. Jeez, man. Maybe that's the problem. We don't have enough problems in America. So there's no common enemy. So you become your own enemy. I don't know. Anyway, on housing, Walls talks about, we're not just going to hand out money. We're going to make housing more affordable. Nobody actually has a clear plan on this. They talk about tax credits, down payment assistance. Look, it's going to make housing more unaffordable. Yes, a current home buyer could benefit with a down payment assistance program, but it's just going to increase the prices of homes for everybody else down the road. So it's generally not an economically sound principle, but it does help buy votes. Vance says, hey, if you stopped letting illegals in, you wouldn't drive up home prices as much. Oh, and by the way, if we opened up to more American energy, Keystone Pipeline talk or whatever, maybe it would be cheaper to build things like houses because you could ship stuff cheaper. It's actually an interesting argument. I thought that was actually pretty good. Vance reiterates that we're going to cover pre-existing conditions on health insurances, talked about inflation. Both of them touched on paid leave and being open to a debate on paid leave. Nobody really gave a time frame in terms of how long that should be. Let's see here. Vance clarifies that how is Trump a threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power to Biden on January 20th? That's true. He did do that. Walls finishes with, we don't agree on everyone, but we have optimistic people on our side, including Dick Cheney, Taylor Swift, and others. We're going to create an opportunity economy. Vance made it clear he'll stand with the Trump agenda. Harris gives us a different option. Harris is bringing the politics of joy. All we have to fear is fear itself. I mean, honestly, they are running a very different campaign, right? Trump, it's usually everything's crap. And with Harris, it's like, we're going to make it better. I was actually hoping Trump would kind of take some of the hope POV. He has not. Vance's final statement talks about crime and drugs are getting worse due to Harris. Harris's policies make this worse. We need change. Someone with the experience who can get this done. Vote for Trump. All right, so there's your full-on summary. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I kind of enjoy doing these. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Quick recap on some of the things to go to. Coupon code for the course is expiring at meetkevin.com this Friday. Email us at staff@meetkevin.com if you have questions. Shadowing available for next Tuesday if you want to see some of what we're doing with House Hack. Mastermind starts this weekend. Email us at staff@meetkevin.com if you have questions on any of that. Last thing is we are also now doing licensed financial advice. So if you want to come to us with your situation, like I was just reviewing some folks' finances where we're looking at, okay, let's figure out the business entity structure you got. How are your insurances? How are these employees structured? This is way more than like just invest in VOO. So if you want to, get sort of a full audit of what's going on in your life, from businesses to trusts to real estate to retirement to children to your job to your wealth to everything, you want a full analysis, consider booking a call over at stockhack.com and get an intro call. If you have questions about the pricing or whatever, set up the call, say in your little memo, hey, I've got questions about the pricing or questions about how this is going to help me. I deal with every client that we have, which is very, very exciting. I know, I've got a wonderful team that I've been training for the last 2 years. They're amazing, but ultimately, you're getting my advice via them. So I'm very, very excited to be working with all of you. Anyway, thank you all so very much for being here, and we'll see you all in the very next one. Goodbye, everyone, and good luck.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is not personalized advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show shall not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF. I may personally hold or otherwise hold long or short positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuer other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Make sure if you're considering investing in HouseHack to always read the PPM at househack.com.